This is my last attempt at putting myself back in contention for this head-to-head campaign. I have mustered everything Celt Iberia can, and I am going against the Lusitani. Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another head-to-head online battle between me and Republic of Play. I was about to say Robert of Play, no, Republic of Play. And obviously this was taken from our head-to-head campaign, whereas I'm playing as Celt Iberia, and he is playing as the Swaby, who I think are now called Germania, and I was obviously the Arbassi before I kind of confederated into Celt Iberia. And at this point in the campaign, I guess there will be a few spoilers here, and I can kind of let the game play a little bit as well, whilst things go on and I talk, because there's a little bit of action at the beginning and then there's kind of a big deployment phase which I'll cut out as we go forward. But yeah, so at this point in the campaign, as I said, there'll be spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the previous stream and you want to see it, you can go back and check it out. But for the most part, you don't really need to enjoy this battle. At this point, I am in a pretty tricky situation. I'm fighting the Lusitani, who I thought I could take on, and I would have been able to if the glorious Roman Empire hadn't come after me like 4 or 5 turns straight away after I declared war on the Lusitani. So at this point in the campaign, I'm fighting 4 stacks from the Lusitani. I'm fighting the tremendous might of the Roman Empire, who, you know, are harassing me. They're conquering my lands in Africa. They're destroying my coastline with their navies. And as well as that, they're also hitting me pretty hard by invading Iberia with their armies as well, using Africa as a launching point. You know, I was not prepared for a war against Rome quite yet, and I had done, you know, put in preparations to make Rome not want to declare war on me, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. So yeah, at this point in the campaign, I'm losing a war against the Lusitani with the Romans hot on my heels and at my rear. So this is kind of an all or nothing move right here. I've managed to catch 2 Lusitani armies out in the field. I've brought 2 of my own armies. I know for a fact that I am outmatched in quality, but I feel like I have a cavalry advantage, so it's basically now or never to go in. And if my front line can hold long enough, which is a kind of a big ask because a lot of my infantry are trashed here, I've never really had the time to sit back and recruit my better units quite yet. And, you know, I feel like if my front line can hold for long enough, my cavalry can do the work to win me this battle. However, if they break, it's going to be kind of all over. So yeah, this battle is kind of an all or nothing move for me. You can see my reinforcements coming on, and again, it's mainly just kind of like low tier spearmen who have really poor morale. My generals aren't that good either. But as I said, I think I have a good cavalry force here. I do outnumber him when it comes to cavalry, so that's going to be good. As well as that, Darren does have this fort that he can use as kind of a defensive blocker. However, he has like 8,000 men. I think we both have like around about 8,000 men on either side. So because we you know, both sides have so many units, it's very, very hard for him to use that fort. So I'm hoping that I can kind of just like anchor his force outside of the fort. And you'll see that that is exactly what happens. It's not really a spoiler. But yeah, because he has so many, 8,000 men, they can't all fit him the fort. And I have Balearic slingers. I think I have 4 or 5 Balearic slingers. He doesn't want to just sit there and get shot to pieces. So he is going to go ahead. And there you go, a nice little ambush that Darren had waiting for me. Had some of his cavalry just beneath the hill. And I'm going to be putting back here. The Lusitani are the stronger Spanish faction as well, so I do even need to be a little bit careful of a few of these horses. I think these are the same as mine, but I know he does have access to some cavalry that is pretty scary. And these are just the same as mine, as we are going to have a nice little cavalry skirmish going on out here. I've even got my general moving in as well. Obviously, the general is going to be a very strong Iberian cavalry unit. I'm sorry about that. On my voice, I am still a little bit ill. So that's why my voice might go a little bit in this battle. So yeah, at the moment, you know, I do have the cavalry advantage. I'm rushing over all the horse that has been coming on from my reinforcement army, and I'm seeing this battle right here, and I'm like, oh, holy crap, I might be able to get a really nice kill on a lot of his horse here. You can see that he did manage to catch my general right here, which was a nice move by him. And yeah, as you can see, the Lusitani have some really good horse right here. These, what are they called? We'll see what they're called. But yeah, this unit is... Where the hell is their banner gone? Is it over here? No, it's right here. Yeah, these guys are really good. The Lusitani cavalry lancers. They're definitely a scary unit to behold. You can see their heavy armor as well. But luckily I've got my general engaged there. My numbers have come into play pretty heavily, and the cavalry that he has that is very similar to mine, I'm managing to rout pretty easily. He's also engaged one of his generals here, kind of riskily, which I'm going to try and take down, but Darren does see that, I've got cavalry closing in pretty fast, and he's going to pull out of there with his general. I mean, realistically, Darren has nothing to lose in this battle. He can be kind of a bit risky with his units, and I'm going to continue to pursue him as well because I want to try and get into some of these slingers as well. Killing some Iberian slingers is also a really good idea, but he is going to scare me off with some of these townsfolk. It's pretty hard to tell if this is townsfolk or not. When you're looking at the battle like this in the heat of a moment, you just see a sword icon, so that could be realistically anything. And I obviously don't want to get in range of a lot of his javelins, which I'm getting hit by right now. So I'm just going to pull out of there. I feel like that was a pretty good exchange for me when it comes to cavalry. I managed to kill, I think, 2 of his units, and I kept a decent portion of my own cavalry alive as well. So I think at this point in the battle, I'm looking pretty good. I'm going to rotate my army. I'm still waiting for reinforcements to come on the battlefield. As well as that, you have to keep in mind as well, we do have a battle timer on in these engagements. We have a 40-minute battle timer. So sometimes battles can just finish in the midst of an engagement, Darren doesn't necessarily have to wipe away. He's on the defensive, so he can just sit back and defend in this engagement if he wants to. My plan of getting him outside the fort has kind of worked. If he wants to surround this fort, I think I would probably do better against him. I think his army is probably a bit suited on the open field. He can anchor his flank against the fort, but use that because I have a lot of missiles. I think I had 3 or 4 units of Balearic slingers and a bunch of and I have a bunch of just Iberian slingers, kind of a lot worse variant. But these Balearic slingers are going to force him forward, so he doesn't want to sit in a defensive position where he can't move forward. But by anchoring his flank, he prevents my cavalry from really being utilized on that engagement. And obviously Darren's strength in this battle is going to be his heavy infantry. These guys right here are very strong. He has 2 really good spear infantry units which are going to completely outclass me as these guys as well. These guys are brutal. Taking a look at their stats, they have 65 morale, 11 defense, 47 melee weapon damage, a really good bonus against cavalry. They're very scary, and 51 armor as well. If you can compare that to my front line, I've got 5 melee attack, 9 defense, 20 less morale, third less morale. And yeah, these guys just are not going to contend, and this is like my strongest unit right now on the battlefield. So yeah, I have to be very careful about them flanks, but he also has a kind of a weak position on the flanks, which I'm going to try and utilize. So let's jump ahead right now. Our forces are simply just kind of forming up, and then we will contend. His battle line goes all the way along here up to like this flank. His left flank is definitely weaker than his right flank, but still these guys are just like very similar to what I've got. So I'm going to be matched on the left flank, but probably hindered pretty heavily on the right flank. But again, that cavalry is going to come in so big in this battle, and I've got everything to push into this engagement. If I lose this engagement, things aren't looking good, because it means the Lusitani will keep these armies. These are basically my only 2 armies, and the Romans will have a field day destroying my coast and launching assaults into Iberia itself. So this is a must-win battle for me. My army is now formed up, but I'll skip ahead just a little bit until the forces are kind of, closer and closer towards one another. He has moved into position now. I'm just simply closing down the distance bit by bit now, trying to get my slings into range as quickly as possible, because I just know that's going to be my strength in this battle. If I can force him off this hill, it's going to be really, really effective. Darren could look just to continue to fall back, but because I have the cavalry advantage, I think, he would just take too much damage as he tried to pull back from this engagement. And my strategy has basically worked. This is what the plan was. I knew his army was far too big to sit or even defend around this fort. He could have used this as a defensive position, put men inside, but I think my plan was always to come around and just attack what was ever outside of the fort and shoot what was ever inside the fort. So realistically, this was the best case scenario for me, engaging him outside. He still obviously has a pretty nice defensive position right here with the high ground, but I obviously have these Iberian slingers. How many Balearic slingers do I have? One, two, three, four, five or four. Yeah, we just have 4 of them. But their range is so much, you know, it's just insanely good. So I'm going to be bringing these guys into range, and they're going to rip through his lightly armored slingers. You know, the Bavaria slingers are like the best unit in my entire roster. Or not even in my roster, but they're like a mercenary unit. And yeah, they're just going to have a field day here, ripping apart, especially because I'm focusing down like 3 or 4 on one unit. You know, they really rack up the kills, and you'll see how quickly these guys do get close to breaking. And because I have the cavalry advantage as well, as I see Darren pushing forward, I'm going to launch a nice little cavalry offensive for myself. I know he does have a large portion of infantry here kind of hiding in the grass, but I wanted to launch a cavalry engagement because, you know, even if I don't get any charges off, I still am going to force his slingers back. I'm going to force these guys to turn around. Again, you can see these guys, and I actually do manage to get a really nice cavalry charge off here, ripping through these guys, very effective. I do, however, take a volley here from the javelins, and I'm unsure if this was really worth it. I kill the two slingers, but I also take a large amount of javelins. And yeah, I was curious. During the battle, I was thinking this as well. I actually end up losing an entire cavalry, and this unit gets pushed back onto half. I only lose 30 horses. But I did absorb a large portion of these javelins, and these javelins are going to be an issue when it comes to my front line, because my front line is trash, you know. These poor guys are not going to stand a chance. Look, they're not even in chain or anything, you know. They've basically got a helmet, and that's about it. Some of these guys don't even have helmets. So yeah, like, this infantry is not good. Going up against heavily armored mailed infantry or breastplate infantry, you know, I kind of feel like absorbing them javelins on my infantry line is probably actually pretty, sorry, on my cavalry is actually probably pretty good, because it basically means that, you know, my javelins won't be suffering as much. And as you can see, my, you know, superior missile force is going to force him forward now. He definitely could have chosen to just sit back and take the missile fire, put some crappy units on the front line, exhaust my missiles. I definitely think that's not a bad strategy when he had such a heavy infantry dominance in this battle. I definitely feel like doing that would not have been a bad idea, because you would have lost your crappy units, yeah, but your other units are a lot stronger. And here we go. This is where my cavalry advantage is going to be coming into play. I can basically just harass the ever-living crap out of these flanking units when they're not braced. It's very hard for him to move units over here. And as you can see, I lost like 3 or 4 horses, and he lost, you know, 50 men from this unit of swords. They take a javelin throw, and I continue to keep the harassment. The javelins are now coming out here, so I'm returning fire here, doing a lot of damage on these. Oh yeah, these guys are also really good as well, the Iberian champions. I think I have 1 or 2 of them in my army. I don't think so, actually. These guys are actually pretty good as well. They kind of have a crappy morale, but they're a good shock infantry. And you can see them javelins going out as well. So you can see these javelins are coming out pretty decently for me. I am dealing some decent damage to this front line, along with the Balearic Slingers. You can see how much the Balearic Slingers have chinked down this unit of heavy spearmen. Like, that's absolutely huge, the damage they've done, supported by the other missiles. I've basically got this unit down to half strength. But now the front lines are going to continue, and yeah, this is where things get a little bit sticky. It's whether or not my front line can hold this battle at bay before and allow my cavalry to do the work. You can see as well, he managed to catch some of my cavalry here. Just the javelin throws from all of this infantry was just a bit too much. I also do have depleted units as well. These guys started at half strength as well, which was very unfortunate. And again, they're just so outmatched in this melee. They really, really are. But the front line has now fully engaged, which is pretty nice. My slingers are doing a lot of damage here, focusing down some of these back units again. He's got a lot of these heavier spearmen in the back line. And Darren's going to be trying to be pretty risky on this right-hand side. He's going to take his cavalry contingent and try and bring it around the right flank. But for me personally, I have, you know, superior cavalry, so I'm happy to take this engagement. If I can kill Darren's general, that's huge. He obviously has 2 generals because he has 2 armies. But, you know, winning this battle is absolutely massive, and I want to commit everything I have here. You can already see I've got a pretty good charge off against one of his weaker units, but he's got a good one off. His heavier cavalry proving its dominance over on this right-hand side. I managed to pin down his general as well, and that was actually a really good charge for me. The cavalry proving its worth after that, you know, earlier skirmish. And I'm going to dominate this cavalry engagement really, really effectively and actually kill his general on the retreat right there, which is absolutely massive. On the front line, though, things are not looking good, and I think realistically, I should have had both my generals here. We'll go on slow-mo for a bit. I think I should have both my generals here, seeing that, you know, these guys, this is always going to be my weaker flank. This is, like, literally the starting units you get. You know, they're never going to stand up against the heavier, heavy spear infantry of the Lusitani. I think I definitely should have had my both my generals here just, you know, interchangingly popping rallies on this left-hand side. This right flank was a little bit stronger, like it wasn't hugely stronger, but I did have some of my swords here and stuff, which could have done a bit of a better job. I think I am bringing over my second general. I think this is my second general right here. He is making his way over, but look at that on this left flank. My entire position here is just flashing, and if I could have maybe have just rallied a unit right there, it could have been huge. I have also managed to catch one of Darren's swordsmen here, which he brought really far away from his battle line. I managed to punish that with some of my cavalry that came back. So yeah, even though I've managed to rack up his cavalry and kill his general on this flank, it's still, you know, I needed more rallies over on this left-hand side, and Darren's infantry soon is going to come flying through. I mean, granted, now what I can do is I can start hammering, anviling, and harassing the ever-living crap out of his men here, which, as you can see, I'm doing, but these guys have 70 morale, and with barbarian units, that's a lot. Or I guess tribal units, I should say. That's a lot of, you know, a lot of morale. 70. These are the Lusitani elite shock infantry. I have nothing to compare to this, and my only bet is to try and surround it and break it, or just ignore it. As you can see, got a good charge off here. I managed to get infantry through this gap and come around, and I'm close to breaking it. But as you can see, this left flank has just crumbled, and Darren is going to be doing the smart move of just pouring more and more men through. You can see another break right here. Luckily, I've managed to match this break, and right now I'm playing a retreat game. All my slingers are just turning around and focusing down on this gap. It's a nice move when stuff like this does happen, because it allows me to shoot Darren in the back. You know, he's going to be turning a lot of these men, and sometimes it can be pretty risky to exploit these gaps, because yeah, right now, as you can see, even though I ended up breaking, so did Darren. You know, he's turning his side to me, he's turning his back to me, and my missiles can cause a lot of damage. So sometimes it can be really risky to commit through these holes, but this left flank has completely crumbled. I'm committing the last couple men I have. Luckily, I've won the cavalry engagement, so these slingers can shoot pretty freely at whatever they want to. So, you know, they don't really have anything to worry about. Darren can chase them down, but I can form like boxes around them units and shoot them. The right flank again, this unit is just refusing to break. I just don't have the quality to bring it down whatsoever. And now he's managed to reinforce it as well with more Iberian units. But yeah, like, I'm doing pretty good on this right flank. I'm enveloping it, but because my left flank broke so quickly, it's just, yeah, looking a mess on that flank. You can see Darren coming around extremely aggressively. And yeah, I'm holding. I've committed my general, I think, over here from the other army. He's doing a very good job, but the morale, you can see him right here. This is kind of actually a good unit I have. He actually has 70 morale, so he's actually really decent, but it's just not enough right now. I'm receiving missile fire, and even though I'm trying to do a good job of like just kind of surrounding units and bringing them down, and the Balearic Slingers, don't get me wrong, are doing an amazing job. You know, 100 kills on that unit, 100 on that one, 100, you know, they're definitely racking up the damage. It's just, I don't have the morale, and even though I am slowly whittling him away on this flank, you can see his men are close to breaking. I mean, look at this unit as well. I'm pretty sure it's surrounded. Is this mine or his? Yeah, this is my unit back here. So this unit is completely surrounded, and it's holding. It's on 78 morale, and I'm actually breaking, and now he's reinforcing. So it's stuff like this. It was just the extra morale that he had in this battle, and I didn't quite have. And that's obviously down to other, you know, other engagements in the campaign. My generals aren't that great. My my units aren't, you know, that sturdy. I just needed a bit more, I think, in this battle. And if I could have maybe have held down this left flank for like 2 minutes more, I think my cavalry could have wrapped up this side, and I could have maybe have caused a mass rout along this side, because you know, it was very close. I think that cavalry engagement was very effective indeed. But as you can see, the battle bounce power is not going in my favour, and things will start to take a turn for a worse. But it's not over yet, don't get me wrong. You know, I may be speaking as if it's over, but trust me, there's some crazy stuff that happens towards the end of this battle. So don't think it is just over quite yet. And as you can see, I'm charging in men now. I think my Valeric slingers are now out of ammunition, so I'm throwing them in. But yeah, more men have poured out of this fort that were defending the city center, coming in now to try and envelop the rest of my line. I've done my best to try and fall back, and I still do have a fair amount of cavalry sitting around. I believe this cavalry over on the left-hand side is going to come back very soon, or this unit of infantry is going to come back very soon, and actually does play a pretty big role in this battle. But now my slingers are having to come down. I'm throwing in everything I have, and yeah, just hammer and anviling. But again, Darren's morale on these weaker units are still looking a bit shaky. I'm charging in, throwing infantry in as well. These missiles right here are perfect targets for my general to get stuck in. Obviously, being skirmishers, their morale is only 44, so a good cavalry charge is going to be more than enough to bring them down, and that's exactly what's going to happen. My general is treading the line, only 36 of his horse left, and some more over here as well. But again, like, this can cause a chain rout on some of his weaker units. Unfortunately, they all have like 65, 78 morale, and my general unit, that's not even my general unit. My general unit here is holding up so much of the Lusitani army right now, literally holding back so much of it. But I managed to break this entire center, which is pretty huge, and now I'm going to start to wrap around here. You can see infantry, my infantry are going to be coming back I do notice this pretty soon, so expect that. But again, that right flank just broke a couple seconds too early. But yeah, look at this. This was always Darren's weaker flank. And if I could have just had like 5 more seconds over on this other side, I could have maybe have caused a huge rout on this position. But the fact that my general, this one right here, he doesn't look like a general, but he is, from the second army, he's holding down so much of the Lusitani army right now. It's allowing me to come completely around here and just hit this clump of infantry. And all of a sudden, as this unit starts to break, Darren's firepower is heavily reduced, Having that cavalry is coming in so big for me. But I'm causing these shock, routing of the units. And even with, their 47, 50 morale, they're breaking. And these kind of cavalry charges coming around the side, the huge amount of numbers, is coming back so big. I also have some units over here as well. Again, I'm going to bring them back pretty soon. Yeah, you can see this infantry now coming back from every single side. These cavalry charges are huge, and they're routing big portions of Darren's army. He's obviously lost his general as well at this point. So, again, look at this. There's a huge break right now. And if I can cause any breaks, on this right-hand side, all of a sudden, the battle isn't looking too bad for me. This huge break is very big. Unfortunately, though, again, at this point, my general, I think, gets slain. I think 63 men that unit was on. I don't know if we can see it here, somewhere in here. I'm not too sure where it is. I think he was on like 63 men, and the general got slain, and that caused a big break right there. But look how many units he was holding up. My cavalry is going to try and move around. If I could rout this, then it freed up so many of my men. I've got more reinforcements moving in very quickly as I'm just trying to hold back. Losing that general was a big problem for me, though, because now it frees up 5 units of Lusitani infantry. And I'm going to come in from every single side here, trying to break these units. With another great cavalry charge, you can see I've got them down to red, but the morale of my own units is looking appalling. And Darren's going to be smart here. He's going to be bringing units round to try and trap my general, throw javelins at him, bring down his horses. And I think at this point my general does in fact go down, and that's basically giving me the battle. But considering that I was outclassed and I believe outnumbered slightly, I think my army did an amazing job, and that was a really good battle. It kind of looked like Darren was taking ground every single position, but my army would just have them little breaks here and there against him that really brought it back. And now the rest of the battle is I'm just retreating off whatever remains of my army, trying to save it. The battle is definitely lost. But all of a sudden, imagine if I would have broke that clump of infantry my general ran into and my units didn't break. That would have been absolutely huge. Then I could have wrapped around hammer and anvils. The cavalry was really big. I definitely think maybe if I would have had my generals on the other flank as well, at the beginning of the battle when my left flank completely broke, maybe I could have kept that around and that would have allowed me to do other stuff. But always the what-ifs in these battles, and they're always exciting. Darren is chasing me down. I get a nice little rear, or I guess frontal charge against the townsfolk, and I absolutely slaughter them. So I get a bit of revenge here against them. That is going to be the battle. Darren is going to win, and this is catastrophic for me. It really, really is, because I've now lost both my armies I think I've basically lost my generals. Rome has invaded Iberia. The Lusitani still have a majority of their stacks left remaining. Like, things are dire right now. I mean, look at our battle line as well. Oh, it's brutal, it really is. But yeah, like, things are not looking good for me in this campaign. And all this time, Darren's just conquering land left, right, and center, you know. His economy will be 1,000,000,000,000 times better than mine. His armies will be so much more experienced than mine. It's not looking good for me. However, I will never say never, you know. If he wants to win this campaign, he has to take it from my dead, cold Iberian hands. I'm going to defend to the bitter end. Oh, holy crap, I was outnumbered by 1,400 men. Okay, well, that you know, that definitely is another dampener. But look how well my army did. Like, I'm happy. Killing 4,000, killing half of his army is pretty good considering how much better these guys are than what I was using. You know, you can see these guys just getting absolutely slaughtered. My slingers just coming in huge. My cavalry really helping me out. I think one of the downsides as well to this battle is this cavalry started off at half strength as well, which was kind of a bit hurtful as well. But yeah, it was just, yeah, it was an all or nothing battle, and it very much almost came to, you know, something as well. We came very, very close to winning that, I think, towards the end. If my, you know, if that I just wasn't expecting that left flank to break as quickly as it did, because it literally did break within the first, like, 4 minutes. And I should have had my generals there, looking back on it. But yeah, things aren't looking good for me in this campaign, but as I said, I will fight to the end. I will make him pay for every single inch of territory he does take. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy. Make sure to tune in, because I think now we'll have some really good battles in the live stream, because I've got nothing to lose, so I'll be committing, you know, just death's doom stacks at him, trying to wound him, trying to cause him issues as he gets further and further away from his territory and from his homeland. So it should be really exciting to see what goes down. So make sure to tune in every Wednesday at 4 p.m. GMT, and I'll see you guys in the next one.